You didn't ask the universe to bring you a person who would not allow any expansion in a relationship. You didn't say, universe, bring me someone who is perfect, who will never change and who will never ask change from me. You're asking for someone that you can eternally be joyful with, which means you're asking for someone who is willing to step out of the vortex and in and out and in and out and in and out and in and out and in. You're asking for someone who has the capacity to expand and the willingness to align with the expansion. So you have all of the tools. You know what to do. In other words, the way you keep this relationship feeling as wonderful as it does today is by taking complete responsibility for the way you feel at all times, by owning your emotions, and by understanding that it is your work to tune yourself to the best feeling. The tendency in relationships sometimes is to find someone who is so beautiful, so wonderful in so many ways, and hope that you don't discover any flaws, but there's a flaw. There is one. And then hoping that they won't ever show it to you again, but there it is again. There it is again. What deliberate creating is understanding that if something happens that doesn't feel so good, it is your job to focus yourself back into feeling good without needing that flaw to be resolved. Now that is the secret to a wonderful relationship. Meaning, as you say to another, or whether you say it or not, just meaning it. I'm asking no change from you. I have the ability, now hold on to your seats because you may not like this, but this is the secret to a wonderful relationship. I have the ability to focus myself into loving you no matter what. Because I have been living in a diverse world for quite a while, and I've discovered that I cannot seclude myself from unwanted, from my point of view, things. There are so many people who want things that I don't want, and I don't have the right to take from them the things that they want just because I don't want them. I've learned that this diverse world is the right kind of world, and that I just focus myself within it for the attraction of what comes to me. So, lover of mine, you say, I will extract from you by the basis of my point of attraction, not by the basis of your point of offering. I am attracting from you, and I take full responsibility for what I attract. Jerry and Esther have been playing with this business of deliberate creation for some time, and every day new insights come to them. Recently, they were involved in a situation where red flags were coming up, red flags, and Esther was feeling uncomfortable. She said to us, Abraham, I don't want to have red flags, because a red flag to Esther meant that she was focused upon something unwanted and therefore practicing the vibration of something unwanted. And we said, well, look at it this way. That red flag is the indication that the thought that you're thinking, in other words, the solution that they were contemplating as they were feeling the red flag, just means that's not the viable solution for you. In other words, it just means you're on the wrong path. But it also means that a solution is queuing up in a stronger way. So when you feel a red flag about something, when there's something that may be a little unsettling that comes up, all it means is it's a calling for you to sharpen your focus. It's not a calling for a change out there in the world. It's not a calling for a change. It doesn't mean we need to have a sit-down conversation where I mold you, whoever you are, into something different. It means that this is a moment of creation where when I'm feeling a red flag, I'm launching a more powerful desire that I then will find a way to come into vibrational alignment with.
So is it better to not talk about the problem, but just envision the way you want it to be?
Well,
without talking about it?
Here's the thing, because we've been really encouraging people to just not talk about it, because the more they talk about it, the bigger it gets. But in this business of deliberate creation, we want you and Esther, we want all of you to understand that there is not a problem with discussing the problem. In other words, talking about it is going to amplify what you don't want, but it is also producing more of what you do want. But when you're wise like you are, when you know about emotions, when you're wise like Esther is, then just don't get carried away with poking around at the problem. And the point that we're making here is be solution oriented. That's the other day, Jerry was telling a story that he has told for years. And at the end of it, and Esther has enjoyed it every time he tells it, because it just gets better and better as he applies it to whatever is currently being lived. And he ended by saying, and the moral of the story is, and when they settled in on the moral of the story, they both felt such satisfaction at aligning with the conclusion that this story had caused them to focus upon. So, if you think about the moral of the story, in other words, what is it that you're ultimately reaching for? Loving this person forevermore. What is it that you're ultimately reaching for? Finding the best in one another every day. What is it that you're ultimately reaching for? Joyful, co-creating, expanding experience, you see. So as long, we just want the moral of the story to be so foremost in your mind that you don't get carried away, because there's nothing wrong with having a conversation as long as you're solution oriented, you see. The question that you ask, how can I keep our relationship feeling this way? How can I just keep feeling alive and excited and happy about it? The answer is, give the relationship your undivided attention when you are sure you're in the vortex. And when you are not in the vortex, don't spend too much time trying to sort it out. Okay, wow. Most people get nose to nose outside the vortex. And they practice the outside the vortex, and then they stumble into the vortex every now and again and have and make up. But what about a relationship where your relationship vows go like this? I am so glad to be together with you. And I'm also so glad to be together with the source within me in my vortex. And I love it most when we're all in there together. And it is my dominant intention to give my full attention to you from inside my vortex. So if you ever find me distant, it's not because I'm not wanting what's possible. It's that I'm not vibrationally ready for it in that moment. But don't despair. I'll be right back. I'll be right back. Or I'll be right back. And then never, ever, ever chase anybody down. In other words, don't leave your vortex to go find them. It never works out. And don't ask them to come and rescue you. In other words, that, for better or for worse stuff, sucks. Because it defies the laws of the universe in the way that you know them to be, you see. It is my promise to you that I will stay in the vortex as best I can, and from there, I will give you my undivided attention. That's the way.
So much.
When it comes to healers, like you've mentioned Jesus in the past, and there's other people around who've walked into a room and had miraculous effects on people who are sick or diseased, how does that then tie in with, is it increasing their vibration or thinking about something else?
What you're talking about is the power of influence. You hear us say, we say it often, that one who's in alignment is more powerful than millions who are not. It's like the demonstration that we had with our friend on the telephone earlier, that when you take the time to tune into that higher frequency so that you are really in alignment with that, and then you hold someone as your object of attention, they benefit by your alignment. But you have to understand that law of attraction cannot put someone there who is not in the vibrational vicinity. That's why Jesus said it is your faith that has made you whole. In other words, if someone is standing in desire of something and not believing that it is possible, then it's not going to be their experience, you see. They've got to be somewhere in the vibrational vicinity in order for that to happen. Now, someone who's tuned in, tapped in, turned on has a very powerful, broad, long reach. When you know the power of alignment, and when you know the love of source, and when you hold something as your object of attention, it benefits. This is the easiest way to really get to the heart of this important question with an answer that is right on target. You're going to feel this as it reaches you. Do you believe that everyone is an extension of source energy?
Yes.
And do you believe that source energy is looking at some with love and not looking at others? Or do you believe that source is aware of all? So therefore, everyone has access to that energy, yes? Mm-hmm. So you've got a direct connection with source, but you don't believe it, you doubt it. And so even though source is holding you as object of attention, it's bouncing off of you. You're not letting the benefit of it reach you. So then someone else who comes into your experience, who is also tuned to that, do you think that if source, with all that source is not able to bring a person from doubt, then is there any healer who is in physical form that would be able to do that? In other words, we're asking you, do you believe that source has the power to assert?
Absolutely. And then there's the belief in that person. If you're saying you're using as an identity, like we'll use Jesus, for example. If you
but
believe,
the thing is, unless the perception of that individual changes and allows, unless they let go of their resistance, in other words, there is not anyone who is not seen by source. But there are many who don't allow themselves to know that, you see.
Right.
And so the reason that we put it to you in that way is because we want you to understand that as the creator of your own experience, all of you are the recipients of this source energy. And that every one of you is either allowing it or not allowing it. There is no withholding of source. It's an inside job that each of you must individually find your way to. And sometimes you don't find your way until you reemerge back into non-physical. But it is something that must be individually perceived. That might be a little upsetting to some humans because you want source to be so powerful that source can just zap you with knowledge. And we say, that happened when you made the decision to come here. All of you came knowing that you were extensions of that which is source energy. And so source never stops offering, but you've got to find some way to do step 3. That's really what we're saying. And so what healers do is that they offer such consistency of vibration that in time it causes those who have been resistant in nature to let go of the resistance and allow what was natural anyway. You follow? And you feel how the first part of your question answered the last part.
I don't take it in now. We want to listen to the CDs. It's a bit hard for me to take on it.
Good.
In awe, but I have another couple of questions, if I may. Well, this one's a different subject. The more we focus on something, the bigger it gets. And you've mentioned a couple of times, Abraham, about demonstrations and it doesn't work. I'm wondering how that relates to I wonder about that because there's evidence that I've seen that when groups of people get together and shout, hey, stop this, we don't like it, it can actually make the thing stop. The other people who've designed something to make it stop will actually stop it. And I wonder how that plays in with two people's desires to manifest. One person might have a manifestation wanting to create more money, and they have this great idea, and the idea might be to chop down some trees or dig a hole in the ground or get gas or something. And then they go, right, let's do that. That feels really good. We're making some money here. Everything's beautiful. On the other side of the coin, there's some people there whose properties next door is getting poisoned, and they're not liking it so much. So how does that work? And then when other people start complaining about it, then eventually the people who are making money out of it get told, no, you can't do that anymore because it's actually damaging for other people and it's actually causing more problems to more people.
There are so many things we want to say to you.
Yeah.
Most important, can you feel the grid that you're practicing?
Yeah.
And the grid that you're practicing says that things are out of my control, or that things can be set into motion over which I have no control. And of course, that is a flawed premise. But we want to start with the first part of your question, because there is no denying that in this physical world that you are living in, that your action counts for something. And there's no question that if there are 2 of you pulling on one end of a rope and there are 10 of you pulling on the other end of the rope, that the 10 who are pulling on the other end of the rope are going to win the tug of war. But in all of that, we are talking about a physical platform that is so mediocre in terms of power in relationship to this energy that creates worlds. We want you to think in terms of tapping into this energy that gives you more leverage. If you engage in the battle, in other words, as you're pushing against this, and you're pushing against this, and you're pushing against this, and you're pushing against this, now you are all disconnected from the energy that will make anything important happen, or anything big happen. And now you're just groveling about with one another. And yes, we acknowledge that the biggest and the strongest in physical terms will win that battle. But that's not the arena that you came to play in. If you can let go of the resistance that is inspired from that sort of thing and step back into the more general place and find your point of alignment, you'll be one who, when your grid fills in with inspiration, you will rise so far above it, you see. When you look at much of the world, there is that sort of squabbling for resources, and then there are those who are not squabbling for those resources. And they are always those masters, you call them, but they are not remarkable in any way, other than that they have figured out how to stop doing that thing to themselves which was depriving themselves of the resources, and how to tap into the stream that is yielding them more. We do not deny anything that you're saying. There are plenty of things in this world that you are not wanting to participate in. But there is a big difference when you ask these questions from the framework of what's it like for a person who's tuned into the energy and what's it like for one who isn't. And people have been writing endless books and having endless studies as they are trying to define the manifestations that people are living. It's such an interesting thing to listen to you. It's sort of like whole groups of you make no effort to tap into the energy of creation. You make no effort to become a vibrational match to what's in your vortex. And then you see yourselves not living the lives that you want to live. And then you compare yourself to others who are doing the same thing. And you make a science out of behavior that has nothing to do with alignment. And then you want to know, well, why is this way, and why is this way, and why is this way? And we say, it doesn't really matter too much why anyone has created that. The question is, do you like it this way? And if you do, then give your undivided attention to that. And if you don't, then let go of it. Step into a vibration that is of a higher vibration and watch your grid fill in powerful ways. Don't you find it interesting, the difference in the way people are living their lives? Don't you find tremendous variables in what people are earning or in the way people are feeling? Don't you?
Yeah, it makes it interesting, whole life.
Well, the contrast is all certainly part of what causes you to put things into your vortex. But we just have to come back to, do you believe that you are a vibrational being?
Yes.
And if you believe you are a vibrational being, then why would you recount a story of despair like the one that you recounted to us? Why would you keep that active in your vibration? And you'd say, because it's real, because I have observed it. And we say, but there are a lot of things that are real that you want to live, and there are a lot of things that are real that you don't want to live. Why would you use those things that you don't want to live as your reason to practice a grid and practice a point of attraction? And for those like you, usually it's because you're wanting to make a clear point for others, or you're wanting to teach someone something, or you're wanting to bring clarification to something. Do you believe that you are the creator of your own reality?
Yes.
Do you believe that the things that you think about and the things that you talk about cause you to offer a vibration that comes back to you?
Yes.
And do you believe that everything that comes back to you comes back in response to the vibration that you're offering?
Yes.
Then why would you ever discuss the basis of the question that you presented to us here if you understand that? You say, we get it to a point. Just don't get carried away with it. It's like saying, Abraham, there are people over there that are not living very good lives, and I'd like to talk about them. And we say, well, if you talk about them, then what they're living will become active in your vibration, and then you will live like them. And you say, yes, but I think it's important that I do have a point of understanding. And we say, the only thing that comes out of living something less than you want to live is that you put more things in your vortex that you do want to live. And at some point, you have to wake up to the fact that you have a vortex that is full of things that you want that you would be very well to focus upon. It's time to stop asking the questions that hold you back from the solutions that have been waiting for you for a very long time.
Thank you.
A physical platform.
So the other part of this question is that it often feels, I know that what I want most is for me to feel joy.
Yeah.
And experience.
6:44.
And sometimes it
Quarter
feels,
7.
very difficult to imagine that at all, but to imagine that when there seem to be so many beings who aren't experiencing that.
Well, it's interesting because as that question wraps around itself, the second part of the question is what is muting the first part, and it's the reason we told you the story we did about Esther with this beautiful person. When you get tied in to the joy that others are allowing or not, and you have no way of controlling the joy that they allow or not, you are stranded in a place of no joy because you have no power for them. But you can teach through the clarity of your example. Sometimes people say, oh, Abraham, you just teach selfishness. And we say, yes, we do. Because if you're not selfish enough to care about how you feel, that you will work on it and practice it until you are predominantly in that place of feeling good, you don't have anything to give anyone else anyway. You can't give them your joy because if they're vibrating in a place far from it, they can't receive it anyway. And so all joyful people do is, by law of attraction, gather other joyful people up around them, and then you go off and have a joyful party. And the people who aren't having joy are really annoyed at that. They want in on your party, and they think you're deliberately not inviting them. And you want to say, it's not me that's holding you away from our joyful party, it's law of attraction. You got to get joyful, and then we can't keep you out of the party. And they say, well, let me in, and then I'll be joyful. And you say, I would let you in. In fact, I've let a lot of not joyful people in, but they didn't get joyful, they just made me not joyful. Law of attraction is the keeper of that gate, so to speak, you see. And so when you give the responsibility of attraction to law of attraction, and then you just tend to your own crack, to your own gap, to your own vibrational relationship between who you are, then you experience more and more joy. So let's play that out. So You weren't joyful, you wanted to be, you launched rockets, and you attracted a way to become more joyful. So you're managing your joy pretty well. Not doing as well as you'd like to, but you're, in relative terms, as you look around the planet, you're doing very well joy-wise. But you feel guilty about being joyful. And you can't feel guilty and joyful at the same time. It's one or the other. You're joyful or you're guilty. They're very different vibrations. But you're joyful, and then you wish for others to be joyful. So you start looking around for others who aren't joyful that you could teach how to be more joyful. But when you look at them in their not joy, you activate the vibration that is still present within you because you yourself remember not being joyful. And now you feel negative emotion. And now it feels like if they would just become joyful, you would feel better. And we say, of course you would. But you have no control over whether they do or not. So you have to leave them and their lack of joy out of your equation, which doesn't feel like the Good Samaritan at all, does it? Doesn't feel like someone with compassion. It doesn't feel like someone who cares about them. So then the question is, how can I, in my thriving, be of value to those who aren't? How can I, in my joy, be of value to those who are not joyful? And we say, you really can't. You're on vibrational wavelengths that are different. And then you say, but I want to be of value to them. And we say, life is of value to them. The contrast is causing them to want. And as their life causes them to want something that you are living, they might catch a glimpse of it when they are in letting their negative guard down, when they are not beating the drum of what's going wrong. In your joy, you might be able to be an influence to bring them into a better feeling place. This is the struggle that powerful teachers have felt from the beginning of time. How can I uplift another? And we say, well, first of all, you got to be where they want to be in order to lift them. And next, you have to not see them as broken or you don't have access to them. So you cannot acknowledge their deficiency of joy and coax them into more joy at the same time. That's why it helps to say, I am where I am and you are where you are and where you are is okay. The reason that healers like Jesus, and there have been so many, actually could influence illness into wellness is because he practiced so clearly his picture of you in your wholeness that no matter what you were temporarily living, he did not see it. He did not see your lack of wellness, and he did not see your lack of joy. He saw you as you really are, as most of you is, because that's the part of you that he was attuned to. And then as he stood in your presence and held you in his gaze, in his place of connection, where one is more powerful than millions who are not, he flooded your environment with the energy of well-being. And some of you raised in that vibration. And then he said, go forth and tell no one. Because he knew if you went home and talked about it, they'd talk you right back into wherever you were before. So, uplifting is about, first of all, being there. And not seeing someone who is not there, because as soon as you see someone who's not there, you activate that vibration, and then there you go, you see. And that's what's been muting your joy for quite some time. You care so deeply about where the others are that you find empathy with where they are. And when you find empathy with where they are, instead of you uplifting them, they downlifted you see. So the key is to get into that good feeling place and then dart in and out with shorter frequency. In other words, get happy, then dart in and dart out. Get happy, dart in and dart out. Get happy, dart in and dart out. And try to maintain the balance between, in other words, any of you, we promise you, if you watch CNN very long, you will be there. You just cannot watch what's going on with any sort of concentration without losing connection to who you are. And if you watch it long enough, you'll activate a vibration within you that will start attracting into your experience the very thing that you're watching, until you will then proclaim that the whole world is in this mess. And the whole world isn't in this mess, but the mess is getting bigger and bigger. The more attention, the more of you give to it, you see. So how do I look at something like that and not put my head in the sand. How do I be of value? How do I witness something that's happening on a world scope or on an individual scope? How do I see it and be of value? How do I not get sucked into what's gone wrong? How do I be of value? And we say, you see it, you let your desire be born out of it, and then you give your undivided attention to your desire. That's the way you do it. You see your son struggling, so you buy him a house, and then you give your undivided attention to your image of him succeeding in his life, in that house or not. You train yourself into the thoughts that feel best to you. And as you do, you come back into alignment with who you are. You get so sure-footed in that then you can witness things that aren't up there in that good-feeling place without you being drawn away from your good-feeling place. And those who don't understand will call you arrogant or selfish or detached. And if they really want to know, and we were standing in your physical shoes, we would say, yes, indeed, I have detached from the struggle and the sorrow and the pain of this world. I catch glimpses of it, which spark my wanting, and I give birth, and my vibrational escrow holds this new idea of this improved life. And then I recognize that the larger part of me went right there immediately and began living it and began calling me toward it. And I listen every day, all day, for the call of Source. And I move as best I can in the direction of things that feel better and better and better. And yes, friends, we would say to them, I do hang out in a place of feeling really good most of the time, because I've discovered that that is naturally who I am. It's who you are too. It's naturally who we all are. We are joy, we are Source, we are love in physical bodies. Enough? Esther saw a documentary, and the mother bear and the baby bear were taking the honey from the hive. And the bees weren't bothering them at all, and they were lapping the honey up, and they were licking each other, honey all over everyone, licking it up. And the voice in the documentary talked about the love of this mother bear. And Esther thought, I wonder if this mother bear has love for her baby, or if she just likes honey. It was really hard to know what a bear feels. And that night, Esther dreamed. And she was the baby bear. And the mother bear was licking her. And they both had honey all over them. And Esther felt the most powerful, profound love coming from her mother bear that she had ever experienced. We want you to know that love is the basis of your world. And it is present in everything that allows it, you see. And just because there is a particle of someone, something, somewhere that isn't allowing it, does not mean that it is not the pervasive basis of your time-space reality. And when you slip into it, it will surround you. And when you're standing in a pocket without it, sometimes it feels like it isn't pervasive, but it is our promise to you that it is. Every human on the planet could watch CNN and get involved in some terrible thought and disallow for a time the well-being that is flowing. But we promise you, the new ones that are being born are filled with it. The beasts of your planet are filled with it. In other words, the power of the well-being of your planet, it is the most powerful stream that exists. And while you may hold yourself apart from it temporarily, it cannot last. And as we've said to you several times here today, we're just wanting you to experience the deliciousness of going with the flow of that love and well-being before you croak. But if you don't, you'll do it when you croak. Very good.